Hello everyone, welcome back to Allcarnews, and you join us here today with the 2026 GMC Hummer SUV 3X. That 3X of course means this is the tri-motor version of the Hummer SUV, and I absolutely love this thing so much. I was genuinely terrified to get into this car for this week because I was always so concerned of how big it was, but honestly, it's way easier to drive than I was expecting, a lot more comfortable than I was expecting, and honestly, it's incredibly practical. We have an insane amount of cargo space under this front trunk area. The rear trunk area is really huge as well, and you can remove the roof panels on this car like a T-top. It is honestly one of the most awesome new SUVs still on the market right now. And of course, for 2026, we get some new options, new features that you can select throughout the very extensive configurator on the website. And we are actually losing some things for 2026 as well. So we'll dive into all of those details throughout the course of this full in-depth tour and review. And nonetheless, let's go dive in. So joining us under the hood here, or the front trunk, we don't really have any engines and stuff, obviously, as it's a dedicated EV architecture. Instead, we get this colossal north of 11 cubic feet of front storage space. Now, you can use this for anything you want, but you can also use it to store all 4 of your roof panels in here. And this particular one has the carrying cases for them. They're really well padded and actually quite nice. This is packing an around 170 kilowatt hour battery pack under the floor. It's huge. It's running on an 800 volt architecture. It can charge pretty quick as well, up around the 300 kilowatt range. But the power figures are pretty crazy too. This is putting out around 830-ish horsepower, and what GMC quotes is around north of 11,000 pound-feet of torque. In all reality, it's probably around 800 pound-feet of torque when you're measuring it a little bit more normally, but that's still a crazy number. What's even crazier is for 2026, the 3X pickup truck gets over 1,100 horsepower now, and that's largely to do with its a little bit larger battery pack style, and it's a little bit of a different dimensions than this SUV, so there's more room to kind of shove some stuff in. But what all of the new GMC Hummer EVs are getting for 2026 is the new King Crab mode. So we all know what crab walk is, right? It goes side to side essentially when you put it in a certain mode. This King Crab mode actually turns the rear wheels even quicker now for even more enhanced maneuverability. So that is pretty impressive, and it's a software-defined feature. So we probably could see a software update coming to other GMC Hummers to probably enable that feature as well. So that is a pretty cool thing. And of course, 0 to 60 happens in around 3.5 seconds with the Watts to Freedom mode, because why not? Now on the styling front of the 2026 GMC Hummer SUV, again, visually not much has actually changed at all. So this one is the Interstellar White paint finish. There are quite a few different paint options you can get, including a slew of matte paints as well, which I think looks really great on these SUVs. There's even a new carbon edition option for 2026 with carbon fiber wheels on a vehicle that weighs like 9,000 pounds. Is an insane thought, but you can actually get that now. It's a pretty hefty package, and it looks really cool. But this one I think still looks absolutely epic. I love the nice contrasting black gloss painted areas all around here. Of course, we have that gigantic signature GMC Hummer front light bar up here, so we have the Hummer spelt out. It even says Hummer EV over here. We have a nice gigantic daytime running lights coming down to the lower area over here. Then we're going to find our hidden GMC badge right here, and these absolutely colossal recovery points right here, which are solid metal, and I feel like they came off of a tank. They're nuts. And moving down even lower, solid metal skid plates and underbody armor. And if you go for the extreme off-road package, you're going to get even more of that stuff as well. The styling, I think, looks great. Even up on the hood over here, we have a 3X badge, as well as this nice big chunky gloss black painted sections. One thing you're not going to find on this SUV, at least on the exterior, is unpainted matte black plastic. I like that, and it makes it look very premium. And since it's so wide, we have those 3 orange marker lights on the roof. Now coming over to the wheel and tire front of this colossal vehicle, these are also colossal, and please ignore the 8 lug nuts per wheel on this particular vehicle because it's so large and heavy and produces so much power. We have 22-inch wheels with a 35-inch tire on this particular one, and you can also get this is an all-terrain tire. There's a mud and focus more extreme off-road tire as well available with a much smaller wheel, and there's even beadlock capable ones, and there's a lot of different wheel design options now you can get. This is awesome, and they're actually not as loud as I was expecting on both the highway and on regular road pavement. And of course, traction is absolutely really impressive with this. Hiding behind this package right here is some of the largest air suspension components I have ever seen on a vehicle. We saw this on the GMC Sierra Denali EV, but this is just absolutely crazy how big these all these suspension components are hiding behind this wheel and tire. Now, of course, this adaptive air suspension works really well. There's an entry exit level height, there's a normal ride height, and there's even an extract mode height as well when using certain drive modes, and that adds like another extra 6 inches to the ground clearance to really both, you know, do great water fording or get you out of a really sticky situation that you may be in. So really impressive stuff for the air suspension, and as I mentioned, on the road it's really cushy and smooth. Now, coming around to the rear and side of the 2026 GMC Hummer EV SUV, we're gonna find some really cool features that I always love on this vehicle. I like how there's a little American flag Easter eggs on the side pillars of either side of this vehicle. And over here on the rear, we're also gonna find our charge port door. So I could press this, pop it open. It's not power actually, which I actually prefer. And new for 2026 is a bi-directional charging as well that this vehicle is capable of. So that is pretty cool. And since this is such a large battery, you can definitely charge some pretty hefty things with this capability. Now, we do not have a NACS port or the NACS kind of connector, that Tesla style port just yet, though we do have an adapter that GM did provide for us in the vehicle. You can also option that with your new GMC Hummer EV SUV. We do, of course, have up to around, I think, 300 kilowatt DC fast charging. I think it's around 19 kilowatts for level 2 charging. So if you can find or have installed at your house a level 2 charger that's capable of 19 kilowatts, this thing can accept it. And a lot of other GM EVs actually can do the same as well with an option. So that's a pretty cool feature. And I like how the placement of this is really far to the back, so it's gonna make plugging in at a charger a little bit more accessible. The only downside I would say is that this giant swing tailgate does open sideways. So if you're really backed into a charger, you might not be able to actually get into the rear trunk area. Now, we do have a button right over here that is going to allow us to open this gigantic rear door. And as you can see, it is a power rear tailgate, which I think is a necessity for this car since this door is so wide and probably a little bit on the heavier side as well. The whole storage space back here is also truly colossal. One little downside I would just note is that the load floor itself is incredibly high. Now, this is currently in the entry exit level height. I am 6 feet tall, for example, and this is at my hip up here, the entry level height here. So you're lifting things in might be a little bit of a task if you want to shove stuff in the back of your trunk area, but thankfully you have so much trunk space back here. It's really impressive. Fold that second row down and you're gonna get like north of like 80 cubic feet of cargo space. It's truly nuts of how much stuff you can fit in the back of this vehicle. And with this gigantic, boxy, really long rectangular opening, you can fit a lot of things in easier, such as like suitcases and boxes because of the dimensions. And again, it is a really wide opening. Under the floor over here, we have this really cool kind of terrain rubberized pattern, which I think is really nice. Opening it up, you're not gonna find much underneath there, so I'm not even sure why you even have the ability to open it up. But we do have a full household outlet back here, which is nice. Again, those cool little Hummer pattern designs, even in this metal skid plate over here, which is cool. And we have the ability to fold down our second row seats. So all I have to do is press these two little buttons here, and the seats will launch themselves flat down, unlocking the truly colossal size of this interior storage space. Let's hop in the rear seats now of the Hummer EV SUV. I honestly really do like this vehicle quite a lot. It's actually quite usable. And coming over to this massive rear door, you can see we do get privacy glass, as well as all 4 panels of this roof can be removed, which is pretty cool. We are also getting these really aggressive side steps over here that honestly double as like rock rails. They're so sturdy and metal. And I like how on all 4 doors we do have the keyless access capability here. Opening up the rear door, you're gonna notice a few things off the bat. So one of those things is that we actually have frameless windows on all sides of this vehicle. That's due to the roof being able to be removed. And have a look at this interior. This is one of the few themes that you can choose for your interior, and they are all leather free, which is actually quite interesting. So this is not a leather material in the store. It's this kind of like interesting style vegan material here. It's very rough, actually, nice and textured. I kind of like the design of it, but the materials themselves I honestly wish could be a little bit nicer for a $100,000 plus SUV. Same thing goes up here. This kind of feels like the material I felt in the all-new Chevrolet Equinox we just tested. So a lot of scratchier plastics back here, but everything is really solid generally. Door handle is pretty easy to use. Obviously no electronic stuff here. Nice big cup holders built into the door. Nice big storage, and we have a standard Bose audio system on this particular one. And I really like these cool terrain patterns that GMC is kind of taking over throughout their entire vehicle lineup there. Now, before we hop in completely, I want to show off these really nice rubberized floor mats over here. And they again also have really cool terrain patterns. It even says Hummer EV on them. And this center portion over here can actually be removed and is held in with this cool little button style clip system there. So I think that's a really cool touch. Now, hopping inside is pretty easy. You got like a grab handle here, as well as located up here. So that's nice to hold on to. Hopping in is generally quite not bad, and honestly the space in here is truly colossal. So I can close up the door here. Nice solid thunk actually from this architecture. And this is a huge rear seat, guys. It's so spacious back here, as you would expect for how large this vehicle is. Now the seats themselves are again made out of this kind of vegan-esque material here, so no real leather. You know, it's okay of a material. I think the color choices are really nice. I just would have liked to have a leather option, especially in a vehicle that costs this much money. We do have some interior LED lighting in here, which is incredibly bright. Even in the trunk, actually, we have LED lighting. We can fold down this center armrest over here, 2 cup holders in addition to the ones you're going to find on your door. We do have storage on the backs of both the front driver and passenger seat, which is nice. And we are getting our own climate controls back here, which is a nice touch as well. So we have our own air vent control here for our fan speed, as well as temperature adjustment, and both outboard seats are heated, which is nice. We also have a USB-C, USB-A, our own tiny little air vents back here, and some more additional storage over here with this rubberized terrain style pattern in there, which is really cool. You can just see how wide this vehicle is just because of how wide this center console is. It's truly colossal. And what I really like back here is that the leg space is fantastic. You don't feel like your legs are just like shooting up in the sky, which I've experienced in some EVs. It's actually pretty comfortable. And I even have some foot space still as well. So really good for rear passengers. And I almost forgot we have another household style outlet back here like we did in the trunk. So lots of electricity coming out of this particular SUV. Now we do also have to talk about this roof situation here. So as you can see, you can remove this panel right here, as well as this panel and the front 2 panels as well to have basically like a T-top. Now this is not glass. It's a sort of like very highly tinted plastic. It's so tinted that you cannot actually really see through it. Really easy to remove though. You literally just pop open this panel as well as this lever right here, and then from the outside you just literally pop it off and put it into the front trunk. If you had that carrying case, that makes it a lot easier as well, and it's a really cool experience. I think one of the most unique things about this GMC Hummer lineup, which is really cool. But let's go have a look now at the front area to see what's new and changed there. Now on the door over here, you're going to note it has the factory 0 badge right here, built in the United States. This is where that GMC Hummer EV is indeed made. And again, I really like these side sill plates that have that kind of motif of the front LED light bar, which is a really cool touch there. Really nice, rugged, rubberized floor mats as well. Again, these can be removed by these little button style system there. And these seats are humongous. Full power adjustment, of course. Same material as we saw in the rear seats. Again, not real leather, but pretty rugged feeling. I will say this Hummer EV piece right here is kind of cool looking, though it is hard plastic and it does kind of eat into your shoulder and back depending on how you're sitting sometimes, despite it looking cool. So keep that in mind. But again, you just have so much space in this vehicle. Closing up the door, again, a frameless window here. Now to start it up, you just put your foot on the brake. This is a good old EV in that sense, so you have no start stop button. So put your foot on, power is to life. You get those typical chimes. And let's see what's new here for this particular model year. And the real only big difference is some of the software has been a little bit updated actually. No more Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It's gone. So now this is actually just pure that General Motors interface now. So if you want Apple CarPlay or Android Auto in your GMC Hummer EV, SUV, or pickup, you're going to have to go for a 2025 or previous model year. This 2026 completely eliminates it. I think that is a horrible, horrible, horrible decision. Luxury means choice. And if you don't have that choice to use that software, which is great, and a lot of people love it, they might not consider this vehicle anymore, actually. I've seen it happen in the real world. I did used to work at a dealership, so this was a real problem. But I'm not too happy about that. But nonetheless, everything else in here is pretty easy to use and just generally humongous. Same thing goes with these giant air vents over here. They're so big that not even the full thing is actually functional. It kind of cuts off right here. I like the dash design as well. No heads-up display, though. We do have those little 3 LED marker lights for our brake and crash intervention there. Down here on this lower panel over here, we're going to find a few different controls. So we actually have our lane keep assist function here. We can open our tailgate, our front trunk, charger system here, and we can also roll down all the windows in the vehicle at once via this button, including the rear tailgate window as well. And you can actually control that individually from this little window switch up here, which I think is a really cool touch. Steering wheel wise, it's pretty much just good old GM stuff we've seen already, though of course this is a unique airbag cover with the Hummer EV text on there. Looks really cool, nice and boxy. Of course, we have a Hummer EV logo down here as well. On the left hand side, we have all of our controls for our Super Cruise system, and what new for 2026 is something I've been asking for a long time with the Super Cruise systems, is that now you can use lane change assist as well as steering assist without going into the full Super Cruise system. So now you can use it pretty much anywhere. Hold down this button here, we can kind of customize our digital cluster just a little bit. There isn't that much adjustment here, so we can put like Google Maps up there, our driver assistance screen as well. Hold it down again, and there's more like a clean style view here. And we have our awesome regen on demand paddle that I love in all of the General Motors electric vehicle products. Really cool stuff there. Automatic headlights, automatic wipers as well, of course. And of course, we have 3 wipers on this car because the front windshield is just so colossally huge. That is a really cool touch there. But yeah, this is a really interesting vehicle, and honestly, it's way easier to drive than I was expecting. You have a lot of height adjustment in the seat. Visibility is questionable, even with these gigantic side mirrors, but thankfully we have turn signal cameras, so if I turn my turn signal on, we're going to see cameras come up over here in the center, so either side, which is really helpful actually, because this car is so big. But that's a nice feature we saw in the GMC Sierra Denali EV as well. This center console area over here is pretty multifunctional. So in the lower section over here, we have this huge storage cubby space as well, which is really nice. So this is kind of like a floating center console. And I like the decision, whoever GM made this, to keep an actual good old shifter in this car. Love this. I really like this. Every new GM product has like the shifter up here now, but this is a nice unique differentiator for the Hummer lineup here. Opening up this front large panel here, we have a wireless charging mat, USB-C and A port. I'm not the biggest fan of how this feels. It feels a little bit flimsy, and I'm not the biggest fan of this charge port door, because if your phone is in here, you can't then close this, which I think would have been a cool thing. So they should have made it, I think, like sideways or something, or have a holder here, because if you launch this car and your phone's here, it's going to flip back, and I don't know, if it's hard enough, it could potentially crack your screen on this kind of hard plastic panel here. So this could use a little bit of some thought there, I think, down the road. Same thing for this panel. I honestly would just leave it open, but you do have 2 really large cup holders with rubberized grips in there, which is nice. And we do have our drive mode selector here. So we have really cool graphics on the screen going through our drive modes. So we have off-road, we have the terrain mode, the My Mode system, which you can set up, normal mode as well, which is really cool. And all of these will kind of interact with your all-wheel steering system. What I also really like about this interior is how they design this whole kind of screen system here. So, and we have a lot of physical buttons still, which is something we don't see on a lot of new vehicles. A little Hummer Easter egg right there. So our heated and ventilated seat controls, you press this button, it opens up to a little panel here, which are physical buttons, which is kind of cool. Same thing with our climate system here. We can kind of circle our fan speed really easily via these little switches and buttons. Our panels kind of open up here, though this particular one is missing out on quite a few options. So you can get like these locking differential systems here, and there will be a whole bunch of other buttons actually in this panel, which this one does not have. But we do have a pretty big glove box over here. And what's also equally colossal is this center console armrest. It's huge. You have individual armrests basically for the front driver and passenger. This huge center console piece, which is rubberized, opening up. You can see just how wide it opens as well. And we have this upper tray here. So this is the supplied NACS to CCS adapter port right there, which is kind of cool. We have this upper tray portion over here. Lift up the tray, you get even more storage. It's huge. We have a good old cigarette style outlet in there as well, and a little LED light for some illumination here. But this is a really, really large central console storage space over here, and it can fit quite a lot of stuff. It isn't locking though. That would just be for your glove box, so keep that in mind. And now having a closer look at this infotainment screen here, it works like all the other General Motors infotainment systems here that are now removing Apple CarPlay. So we have a home button here, which will always bring us here. We have this really cool kind of multi-function display here, which I do like, but you know, I had a GMC, I believe, with Apple CarPlay with this similar layout here, and I was able to actually have Apple CarPlay as one of these kind of content widgets here, which is really cool. But again, for whatever reason, they're removing it. I know it's just a software thing, so maybe it'll come back down the road, but they seem really committed to this right now. You can download actually like Spotify or SoundCloud from the Google Play Store, though, to have it natively in your system, which is another feature since you do have that Play Store in there. Camera systems, pretty crystal clear. My only downside to this is that this is a thing I see across all General Motors products. Why are they so small? I feel like they need to increase the size of these, make these icons a little bit smaller, and it's kind of far out of my line of sight as a driver actually, but you do have plenty of camera views, and I believe there's even more actually with an additional package. We do have this off-road page system here, which I think looks so cool. We can see what's going on with the tire pressures. We have some compasses there, like an altimeter or something, but really cool stuff. Axle torque. It's really cool, fun, just infographics here that this is totally unique to the Hummer EV as well, which I think is a really cool feature there. And we have all these auxiliary switches as well, which are built into the touchscreen on this particular model. That's kind of a cool touch there. We see that in a lot of different off-road style vehicles these days. Few other systems here. We have an air down mode as well for our tires. Really cool feature. Again, the auxiliary switches there, and quick access to your cameras when you're in this off-road page as well. So pretty basic stuff with the infotainment system. It really isn't anything kind of, you know, crazy. You do have some shortcuts over here. So we have a shortcut here to get to some camera systems, auto park assist, rear braking, energy transfer. Break this into here, you can get some more controls here. So this is where you can kind of control blind zone, one pedal driving, but the one pedal driving will always be available to you to access, usually up here as well. Before we wrap up this interior review, I also want to point out we have a digital rear view mirror, which is an essential thing for this vehicle. You can make it regular, but you're going to want to have the digital one, I can tell you that. Up here, again, we have that control for our rear window, some more interior LED lighting, and these crazy looking sun visors here. They're so incredibly long with how long this windshield is. They're not that actually deep because the height of the windshield isn't that tall. So you get this funky looking shape here, a small little mirror. They do fold all the way out and slide, but they don't cover the entire side window over here because they are just so big. That's one little touch there. It's also made out of this fabric material, which I'm curious to see how this holds up over time, especially if someone's, you know, off-roading this car and getting it a little bit more dirty. Same thing with the roof system over here. You can also pop these out really easily, just like in the back, and pop them into the front trunk. So that's a really cool process. And again, it really opens up this cabin to make it really, really special. It's time to drive the GMC Hummer EV, and if you haven't watched our full tour and review, definitely go have a look at that as we dive into all of the crazy details of this SUV. And we have the roof off right now, so hopefully it isn't too windy for all, but this is a really cool SUV. And like I mentioned, with all of this power and torque, you just have such quick acceleration times in this thing. It's just generally really impressive. And with the adaptive air suspension, it's also really smooth. A quick acceleration for y'all here. This thing moves, guys. It also just like lifts up basically the entire front end of the vehicle. Now we can actually roll down the rear glass, and that allows us to kind of have a little more of a better airflow through the vehicle. But yeah, this thing's just absolutely awesome. It's really comfortable to drive. You have a really high, tall driving position actually, and we have this regen on demand mode over here, which can help you kind of bring you to a full stop, but it also launches and flips my phone forward like an absolute rocket ship. Really cool stuff. Love the turn signal cameras like I mentioned there. And heading onto the highway, we'll also reveal one of the newer features, as well as we now have Super Cruise, full self-driving, hands-free driving essentially. But we also have a newer feature where we have the lane change assist and lane centering with the hands on the wheel. That was actually not available previously. So that's a new feature. We have a little bit of a new icon here showing you have hands on, basically Super Cruise in a sense. So I actually think that works really well, and I'm happy they included that. Again, this thing can do 0 to 60 in like 3.5 seconds, guys. So it is plenty quick for something that weighs like 9,000 pounds. It is just an absolute riot of an SUV. And you wouldn't buy one of these things if you weren't expecting to get a lot of looks in them, because that is something that will definitely happen. Everyone is staring at this thing. It looks colossal. It's huge. And of course, there's the pickup truck variant as well. Now you can see we have our Super Cruise icon now. We're actually going to merge highways, so we'll activate that once we enter the second highway here. Again, quick acceleration. We can use our regenerative braking paddle here. Of course, you can use the brakes, and there's one pedal driving as well. It's actually really not that windy in here with all the windows up. I really do like that. So that's kind of cool. Even with all these roof panels off, all 4 panels are off on this particular ride we're doing right now. And they're stuffed into the front trunk, which is a fun little touch. Again, let's have another quick acceleration launch for you guys in just a second, merging onto this highway here. And then we'll test out this Super Cruise system. Whoa! It's just this huge surge of power. It's really quite immense, and it honestly is really smooth on the highway as well. So activating the Super Cruise system, literally just press our adaptive cruise modes on or off. You can access that there, set your speed, adaptive cruise as well, and you can turn on lane centering and all that stuff really easily. So all of it works well. It's easy to activate, easy to use. And now we have hands-free driving activated here right now as well. So that's really nice. And with it built into our navigation system, it'll actually kind of move lanes depending on where our exit will be. So we have an exit in 3.5 miles. It's probably gonna just auto lane change us to the right lane, which is kind of cool. And it kind of moves around traffic. We can initiate an auto lane change as well. Hands-free auto lane change in our topless self-driving Hummer SUV. This thing's just absolutely crazy. I think this camera is actually blocking my face, as you can see right there, so it may not actually enable Super Cruise. Now it says take control, change lanes to follow your route manually here. So we're gonna have to get off an exit. I believe it's gonna ask us to do this manually. There we go. Really cool. So it kind of has a little more of a intuition here. Now if you're on like a more major highway and kind of crossing interstates that aren't leading to an exit with a stoplight, I think it actually kind of does a little bit of a better job of kind of merging you in the correct lane position. But still pretty cool that it kind of is knowing now this is an exit, make sure you take control, and it's being a little bit more proactive about those scenarios there. So really cool stuff here. So to sum up this week in the Hummer EV, it's almost like the ultimate Jeep Wrangler in that sense. You get removable roof panels, off-road capability, but it's an EV. You get that benefit on that. So instant power, instant torque, quiet experience. I don't know, it's really unique. There really is not much like it on the market, and I think that's why this car still stands out a lot against a lot of other competition, which is pretty cool. Nonetheless, thank you guys for joining me on yet another full tour and review over at Allcarnews. And as always, stay tuned for more coming soon. Cheers.